Hello everybody, Richard here from Old Norse Paganism. So this week's episode, or sermon of Odin's wisdom, is about grieving and how it is different for all of us. Before we get into it, I am going to throw out the disclaimer here real quick. Guys, if you're under 18, turn it off. It's not for you. The video is not made for you. Old Norse Paganism's videos in general are not made for you. The channel's not for you. So please do yourselves a favor, do us a favor, and go find somewhere else to be. That out of the way. Last week and this week, probably the hardest two sermons I've had to do. But also probably one of the easier ones, because I felt like I've had the gods guiding me. As some of you know, I lost my youngest daughter on the 6th or on the 8th of August this month. Her name is Alyssa. And so before we get into this week's sermon, we're going to take a minute here in a moment of silence. And I created a clip that I'm going to get going here in just a second. And we're going to sit in silence and we're going to watch that clip. And when I come back, we'll dive into this week's sermon. I made that clip to honor my daughter, and that was a tough one to make. It was only 15 seconds in length, but I cried a lot. So it's really weird how the gods kind of put this stuff together, because it was the week before, it was the week before that a friend of mine had made a comment within our Discord talking about how he was struggling to accept his own mortality. And we talked about it some in the Discord, and I decided that it was a pretty important topic, so that we needed to talk about it in a service. So I did so last week in Odin's Wisdom. And I recorded Odin's Wisdom a few days early, which at the time that I recorded Odin's Wisdom, I didn't know that my daughter had done what she had done, or had died. So it wasn't until after I'd recorded Odin's Wisdom that I knew she had passed away. That's why you'll notice that on last week's blog post, text is really short. This week, though, it's a little bit longer. But I've had the opportunity to speak with a number of you on a number of social platforms, because a lot of you guys have been there to offer your condolences, to offer your support in any way that I've needed. You guys have been helpful on a number of levels, and the outpouring of support from you guys has been phenomenal and way beyond anything I could have ever imagined. And that's not why I told you guys about it by any means, but it was just to let you guys know more than anything as to why I might be distant, why things might slow down a little bit. Things like that. But yeah, the out support, it's just been phenomenal, and I can't thank you guys enough. And the gods have blessed me in that support. So this week I kind of wanted to follow up on last week's sermon of not being able to escape our own mortality, with talking about grieving and how it is different for all of us. Part of my grieving process with this for my daughter has been through communicating with you guys, through sending messages back and forth on the various networks, through just listening to your guys' supportive statements and the emails and all the different gifts you guys have sent me, and my family and my wife and stuff, and it's just been amazing. Part of it has been the blessing of continuing to write articles for you guys, do videos like this, working on various projects for Old Norse Paganism. I find release and a sense of peace through trying to help better your lives spiritually. It's kind of weird, I guess, but I guess I would say that through these articles I've found my sense of closure with the whole passing of my daughter a little bit. And don't get me wrong, I still miss her and I still love her to death, but I do feel like that, I've made it relatively well through the grieving process. So let's go on ahead and dive into the grieving. It is different for all of us, and like I said, I did feel like it was important that we continue on from last week's sermon of you can't escape your own mortality. And I think that every one of us grieves differently, and I don't think that we can be judged for it. I think that if you judge somebody for the way that they grieve, it's shame on you. Now, there are positive ways to grieve, and there are negative ways to grieve. If I had hit the bottle and started doping and shooting up and maybe doing hookers and blow, no. That's certainly not a positive way to grieve. But I think with the way that I have handled it and this way that I have gone about dealing with my grief, I think it's what I would consider to be positive. I've kind of dove into doing things for you guys in Old Norse Paganism. So there are what they call 7 stages of grief, though. And this is according to numerous sites, but one of the sites that I quoted in the article was called Thrive Talk. If there are only, in fact, 7, I would say that for the most part, I've pretty much just blasted right through them. And very, very quickly. It also seems that I may have rearranged the order personally for me and how I handled them. But the whole point here is that we're all very different from one another, and as such, we're all going to face things differently. We're all going to deal with things differently, and that we try to do it, again, positively as opposed to negatively. If you see somebody that's grieving and they're starting to go down a hill of negativity, then as a Norseman or a Norse sister, then it is your job, it is your responsibility to try and help your fellow Norse, or even just humanity, guide them in a direction that helps bring them back up the hill. Okay? So let's go on ahead and get into the stages. The first stage is shock and disbelief. It's pretty self-explanatory. I'm not going to go into the definition of it. Now, for me, that was pretty well instant. I began calling local authorities almost immediately. Some of you know my closer friends within Old Norse Paganism, the community and the members and team members. Some of you know that my daughter and I, we live 800 miles apart. She was over in Minneapolis. I'm over in, or was over in Kentucky. So quite a ways away. But I began calling local authorities. I tried calling her phone half a dozen times. Tried calling her through Facebook. Tried calling her through Instagram. Tried, just getting her to answer the phone any way I could possibly get her to answer the phone. And every time she wouldn't answer the phone, I'd find myself being drawn closer and closer to tears. Obviously, there was no point in trying to call her, but I've even found myself still trying to call her occasionally just to hear the voicemail, just so I can hear her voice. If I get emotional during this sermon, guys, I'm sorry. I'm going to try not to, but just bear with me. But I still, I do try to call her occasionally, just so I can hear her voice. And I don't know how long her voicemail is even going to be intact. So I actually got a phone recorder and recorded her voicemail. Maybe that's a little stock-ish, I don't know, but it does make me feel better when I can hear her voice. Once I was able to confirm with the local authorities and the coroner's office and things like that, I pretty much lost my mind. Had a meltdown unlike any I've ever had. For me, that was shock and disbelief. Initially, it was denial. That's another stage of grief, just denial. I didn't really have a whole lot of time in the denial stage. Like, it was, at best, a few hours. It was in between that stage of calling local authorities and the initial report that I had gotten from a friend of hers. So I didn't have a whole lot of time. I suppose before I was able to confirm it with the local authorities and law enforcement, that I was in this stage. But after that, that was pretty much it, guys. Another stage, or I don't know if it's the next stage, but another stage of grief is guilt. Again, self-explanatory, and wow, woo, doggy. This one kind of hit me. Like any adult child, we agree, disagree, and kind of keep our distance at times. And up until a few years ago, Alyssa and I, we'd kind of done that. We didn't always see eye to eye on everything. We didn't always agree on everything. And I think part of that was because in a lot of ways we were very, very alike. And in a lot of ways we were very, very different. But over the last couple of years or so, we'd been getting pretty close and video chatting, at the minimum 2 days a week. Some days 3, or some weeks 3 or 4 times a week. And again, that was because she was a couple of states away. And then again, just before she passed, we spoke a couple of days beforehand. And she's her normal, happy, smiling, giggling self. And I just married after being divorced from her mother for 20 years. So yeah, I kind of blame myself. Another stage of grief is anger and bargaining. So most of you know that there is no one religion that I've ever studied, and I've studied a lot. If I had to try and put a number on the number of religions that I've studied, I would say there's probably somewhere in the vicinity of 20 to 25 that I've looked into. I mean, there's even a religion about corn, like literally, the stuff that comes on a cob, corn. Okay. But there's probably 20 or 25 religions. So, the one thing I know about it is that when it comes to taking your own life, it is the ultimate sin, period, hands down. And as such, there's no forgiveness for it in any of those religions. And it also is the punishment of ultimate damnation, meaning you're going to hell in the Christian world. There's no honor in it. There's no integrity in it. There's no peace. You will not find peace from taking your own life, period. So if you think you have it hard here, good. It's just going to get harder if you take your own life. So that just really pissed me off, and I think it's mostly because I know what she's in for, and I also feel like it's an ugly, selfish act. I also feel like it's kind of a coward's way out. That's not to say that in the event of a terminal illness such as cancer, Alzheimer's, AIDS, whatever, that there can't be an honorable and integrity-filled way to end your suffering that the gods would be appeased by. But we are not going to get into that in today's service. So, let's keep moving. Another stage for the 7 stages of grief is depression, loneliness, and reflection. I don't really feel lonely per se, or depressed. Like I said, I kind of started working on stuff for you guys in OMP, which you can see here clearly. You could say that maybe it's a version of depression because I've kind of dived into stuff for you guys. But I don't really feel like that's the case. I also know that generally I'm a workaholic anyway, so another stage is what they call reconstruction and work through, or working through. I think by getting back to working with things for you guys in Old Norse Paganism and doing so slowly that I'm working through the mess that I've been dealing with, I also think that it's good for me to take it one step at a time, and by slowly getting back to doing all the things that I was doing with you guys in Old Norse Paganism and my personal life, I feel like I'm doing what I need to be doing, and I'm taking the time that I need to take for me. I am going at my pace. Okay? And the last stage of grief is acceptance. And as much as I might sound like a dick, I feel like I've made it to acceptance. Which may or may not sound dickish. I mean, it's pretty fast, I would assume, but at least in comparison to some dads. I've come to terms with the fact that she and I won't be talking as we once did. It doesn't mean that I won't continue to talk to her. So, in conclusion, my way of grieving and your way might be different. Maybe a little, maybe by a lot. That doesn't make it right or wrong. No one can judge me or judge you for it or the way that we handle it. Okay? And don't get me wrong, you go out and again start doing things like boozing and drugging and hooking and whatever else, doing illegal and immoral acts. Now, I'm going to judge you for that, for the acts. Not for the grief, but for the acts. Okay? Okay? Yeah, you're wrong. You know, try to find someone that can be a pillar of strength for you. You know, for me, I've got my wife. I've got some very good family. I've got you guys. I've got Old Norse Paganism. I've got the gods. I do feel blessed. No, I don't have a lot of financial wealth. No, I don't have a whole lot of physical possessions. No, I'm not surrounded by 100 people all the time. Nope, I don't have the most popular YouTube account, or the most popular TikTok account, or the most popular Twitter account, or even the most popular Instagram account. I don't really care. What I do have is what I need. And the gods provide. So, I hope you guys find inspiration in this. I hope you guys understand the 7 stages of grief. I hope that my story helps you guys. I hope that you guys are able to find peace in whatever it is that you need to find peace in. If you need something, reach out to me, one of the team here at Old Norse Paganism, one of the other community members. We're Norse. We believe in helping our brothers and sisters. If you like this video, please hit the thumbs up button down below. If you like our channel and you haven't yet subscribed, please hit the sub button up here. Leave your comments below. Let me know what you think. I personally try to respond to every comment. I may not get them all the time, especially with everything that's been going on in my personal life, but I value the time that you guys take to comment. Okay? I value the time that you guys take to watch these videos. I value you as an individual. And I thank you for your support. As always, we love you. May the gods bless you and keep you and your family safe.